presents to you Honest Talk.
Hello folks, today we are again back with one more great personality, Mr. Anand Sampath, co-founder and CEO of Udbhata Technologies Private Limited. Udbhata Technologies Private Limited is a startup in the GRC products and consulting space. He has over 22 years of corporate experience in business finance, risk and compliance. Anand enjoys working with complexity, risk and sustainability issues with longer horizon perspectives, and has a strong personal orientation towards the development sector. Prior to his venture, Anand was the Chief Risk and Compliance Officer of an NYSE-listed Indian pharma company. His practical experience spans business finance, enterprise risk management, insurance, compliance, infosec and business continuity planning, management. So, let's begin our talk with Mr. Anand Sampath.
So first of all, thank you so much, sir, for joining and agreeing to share your thoughts with us. We are extremely very happy to have you. Sir, thank you so much, and also to giving us a privilege to listen you.
Thanks, Harsh. Thanks. Great job that you're doing. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much, sir. So moving to the topic of today's session, which we have chosen is the risk and the challenges startup companies face at the verge of starting up. Sir, as you have already gained so much experience, the question which I would like to raise it here is the first one is, sir, what do you believe when is the best time to launch a startup? Because we have seen in some cases people consider that let's first take some experience by working in any other organization, then we will start. And in other case, we have seen that students, those who are studying in their colleges, start a venture. So what do you believe, sir? What is the right time to start up?
So there are two ways to look at this here. One is if I'm going to start my own venture, right? Then I think we should have some experience about how businesses work, right? But let's say if the other option which is possible is that I work for a startup and therefore, instead of joining a regular corporation, I start learning startup life right from day one. But I'm still learning. I'm not into the startup life directly. So if you're doing the corporate route, I would say give yourself at least 5 to 10 years, get to understand different core functions, understand the commercial function surely, build a lot of networks, and then take the plunge after you have saved some money. You should always have a backup of about a year if you're doing on your own. But if you want to join a startup as an employee, you can start right from day one. Today's startups are as good as any corporate, as you know.
All right, sir. It was really a wonderful answer, and I think it will be fruitful for our viewers, those who are watching this session. So, sir, moving to my next question, sir, what do you believe? What are the most important qualities that a startup founder must possess?
Well, I think first and the most important thing is that you need to always have a positive outlook with confidence, because there are going to be 100 new things which is going to come to you simultaneously, and sometimes it might appear that these are very overwhelming in the sense that you do not know what next step to take. But always remember what you started out with, what was the reason why you're doing your venture, and that will keep you moving forward. Of course, that's just the first step. Something that I think people normally do, but they should not forget, is work hard throughout. So this hard-working quality is something that cannot be different for different startups. It's exactly the same. When they say 24/7, Saturdays and Sundays are gone, it might appear no, but the fact is only when those Saturdays and Sundays are put, you actually end up moving forward. So that's an extremely important quality. The third is networking. So there is something that you may need 6 months down the line, and there is no way for you to, at that point in time, start searching for help. It's always good to understand what is your roadmap the next 2 to 3 years? What do you think are going to be those 4, 5, 10 different kinds of help or support of people that you would need, and start trying to build your network around those areas, so that at the right time, all you have to do is pick up the phone and people already know what you want, because you've been part of, updating them. They're part of your network. And lastly, you need to be strong in one domain. You cannot be a generalist and not know anything and then say, just by hard work, I'm going to end up succeeding in a startup. You should know one area better than anyone else in your organization or in your, say, competition, whichever way you want to put it. So these are some things which are very, very important, and without these, one is going to be easily lost.
All right, sir. Sir, what we have generally observed is that a startup business is always at a high risk. Not even the big entrepreneur could have avoided certain challenges that their growing business has faced at its initial stages. So the question is, sir, what do you believe, and what are the biggest challenges that are common for every aspiring entrepreneur in their initial days?
Well, if you're a person who has already had experience, like in my case, right? So I worked in corporate, and then I decided to, start this venture. So in such cases, there are two very big risks. One is you want to always take time before you do something. You think that by spending more time in planning, success is going to be better, right? The chances of success are going to be better. But in the startup world, it rarely happens that way. You need to plan and you need to execute immediately without really wasting too much time. The second area, what I found, which is very risky, again, especially because you come with a different mindset, corporate mindset, you think that by putting in money ahead, right, by building something really good that you believe is good, it is also going to be bought or purchased or liked, right? And that need not be true. So people are going to keep telling you you're doing a good job, but nobody's going to pay you for that. So it is very risky to put a lot of money into your startup before you know that there is someone who's actually willing to pay you for whatever you're building, right? That's an extremely important thing. These are very common, that, these are not anything new. But the trick or the catch is that for people who are very confident, right? I said confidence is a very powerful quality that a startup, founder needs. Sometimes the confidence might actually make them feel that they are going down the right path, and therefore it is always important to, make sure that you don't necessarily use only your wisdom. You also, validate it practically. So don't spend too much time. Start implementing whatever ideas you have ASAP. Don't spend too much money until and unless you're very sure that whatever you're building is going to be paid. These are two very powerful learnings that I have had. I want to make sure that doesn't get missed on.
It was really a great answer, sir. Sir, my next question to you: whenever we talk about the startup, the most important thing which comes is fundraising. So, sir, my question to you is that, sir, what do you believe? How difficult it is to raise funding, and how long does it take?
So, this is actually a very, it's a very sad situation for entrepreneurs in India, especially. So at a very high level, a couple of things that people should be aware of. The startup ecosystem in India is still just beginning, right? And the kind of money that people put in the early stages, the way that money is being made available is being done in a very, I would say, rudimentary fashion. When I say rudimentary fashion, it's like, I have some spare money, so I go and put in an angel as an investor. So the angel collects 1 lakh, 5 lakh, 10 lakhs, and then they start disbursing it, right? So this is not very these are not very strategic investments. These are not sustaining in a long way, right? Because the people who are putting the money there are not really risk takers. कोई भी 1 लाख 5 लाख डालने वाला risk taker हो नहीं सकता, right? So at the end of the day, it's the middleman who actually have a business model that works, not the startup, and definitely not those small investors. So it's important to understand that the reality is that you're going to always have shortage of cash, and there is always going to be a slight lack of, I would say, understanding of how a startup needs to be supported in the Indian context. And as all of us know, it's a great time for startups nowadays. There are so many startups who have kind of come into existence. There are a lot of special freebies that government has announced for them. But for them to get started, I think funding is always going to be a great challenge. There are 3 broad criteria, in my opinion, Harsh, which basically is going to determine how difficult the funding is going to be. One is obviously how large the amount itself is, right? So if you want 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, it's easier to get it. If you want 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 2 crores, बहुत मुश्किल है, right? In India, I'm again talking only in the Indian context. And then how early are you seeking? So are you going to go and say, I have a wonderful idea, I have great conviction, can you please fund me? Or are you going to say that I actually have put in some money, we've got a POC, we've got a couple of customers who say that they like our idea and they're willing to put in money, and those customers are willing to bet their, they're willing to give it in writing, then the conviction is a lot more, right? And the third area is, what is the area in which your startup exists, right? For example, in our case, we are a B2B domain specific SaaS company, right? So if people don't get the domain, like in my case, it's risk management. A lot of people didn't understand what risk management itself was. Forget about then understanding what a risk management software does, right? So we had a great difficulty in trying to first explain the domain and then say why we want something for a software in this domain, right? So the domain matters. So these 3 elements matter a lot. And my suggestion is that whatever stage you're in, however large it is, always have 6 months to maybe 12 months of buffer time in your mind. If it happens earlier, you're lucky to actually expect money, right? And in the initial stages, the wait can be longer. But as you start getting business and as you start getting customers, that particular stage kind of gets, that comfort comes in, but the challenges are obviously different. And the second is, you should always have some money that you're going to put yourself, right, together with them. So it could be 10%, it could be 25%. If you need, say, 25 lakhs, 5 lakhs you put, 20 lakhs you ask. That might give some confidence, right? But just not putting in any of your stake, and stake doesn't just mean time, stake also means money here. Normally it's not very attractive. So I would at a very headline say that expect 6 months, and if your project is understandable, the likelihood of success is higher. If the initial cost you require is smaller, the chances of your success of funding is higher. But 6 months to leke pakadna hai minimum, and there's a lot of hard work required. I was told you may have to meet 100 investors before you get your first, and 100 very different investors, right? Not easy.
Again, sir, it was really a great answer, and you have covered all the aspects related to it. I think it is going to definitely work for our viewers. So, sir, moving to my next question, what we have seen is that for an organization, employees play a very major role and key important role. So, sir, I would like to know what you thought were the importance of employee performance in business.
Yeah, so employees, I think, are the only asset that a startup has, and it is extremely important to make sure that you have the right set of employees. The employees or those people who are working with you or for you, they don't have to be initially full-time paid, right? So they can also be part-time supportive. But you should always go with the idea that they are full-time for you, right? Because with each passing day, there is so much of knowledge, so much of experience that is being gained in the startup life that it would be really sad if you lose anyone, right? If a person doesn't like or doesn't fit into, let us say, your startup, it is sad because you've lost so much time. And initial days, I think time is extremely crucial. The other thing is, it's very important to have the right person. And when I say the right person, it's not about quantity, but it is about the ability to do multitasking. Because you are not going to be able to afford all the people in the team, right? So if you have 10 activities to do, you're not going to be able to have 10 people. You have to manage those 10 activities with 3 or 4 people. So you definitely need people who are multitaskers and people who are also on their own, self-motivated, right? So if you have to keep asking people to say, please work for a few more hours, please use a Saturday, then I don't think we are a startup. We're more, like a corporate world. So the employees that you pick up, ideally from a DNA perspective, I think they are people who need to fit into these quality criteria. Capability is important, but capability comes second. Commitment is first, right? And when I say commitment, more from personal commitment, right? But once you hire a person, or once you have someone working for you, ideally you should choose that person assuming that that person is going to be available with you for life. It may not be possible for you to reward them initially, but I think those are the people who should be rewarded as soon as the company starts getting into the black or starts making money. You could have qualitative rewards, you could have future rewards, you could have present rewards. When I say future rewards, I mean like ESOPs or stuff like that. Or you could have rewards which are present, could be variable pay, performance pay, whatever it is. But it's important to recognize them at that time. But till then, I think you need to identify a person who's willing to take that risk with you and say that yes, we'll stick around with this startup for some time and we'll put in our best. I think that's the only asset a startup will have. Even the money comes later, right? Because if you don't have something to offer, the money is of any use.
All right, sir. Sir, as this time, of course, the time is very challenging. The COVID-19 pandemic is still on. So, sir, what do you believe? What is the impact of this COVID-19 pandemic on entrepreneurship?
I think it's a tough time for all entrepreneurs, especially companies that expected, startups that expected some amount of funding or some business to open up at this time during this year. I think the whole year is a wipe out, according to me. So there's not going to be any guarantees of revenues. So it's really going to be tough. And if there's any revenue coming, that revenue is probably going to be for only a few types of startups. I would say 80% of the startups are going to struggle. In fact, NASSCOM had predicted or had prophesized, or I don't know what's the right word to use, estimated that by end of July, August, 70% of all the startups, the smaller startups, would probably run out of money, right? And it is quite possible that this will happen because the real, what I would say, power of the startup ecosystem or the test of the startup ecosystem is now, right? So it's tough times for sure. I have tried to see opportunities for a debt-based funding for startups. I don't see anyone offering it unless and until you have some collaterals or you have a strong business, right? business itself is weak, or let's say these are very early stage startups, they've employees, but their product is about to be launched, they really would have a tough time, right? And we should remember that today and in the future, the only kind of jobs that people are going to get are going to be in startups, right? Because the corporate sector is downsizing, they are automating. So a lot of those people are not going to be required in corporates anymore. And we have hundreds of thousands of engineers coming in every day, right? So the only place which can absorb is startups. So somehow, the ecosystem has to come out. And when I say that, I mean that we need to have more and more people willing to take bets on early stage startups. There should be some time bound, even if it is not collateral, but let's say link it up to equity or something. Some offers that have to be made, even if it is partially discounted, it's absolutely fine. But I think the right startups need to be supported. If that doesn't happen, it's definitely going to be a tough time. My expectation is that till the end of this calendar year, I really believe that business will not restart, right? Work is happening, but business is very different, right? You need customers, and customers again are going to be tightening their pockets. So unless and until it's an essential, it's unlikely that there's going to be business. So I think the next 6 months we really need to plan yearly.
All right, sir. What we have generally observed and seen these days is that because of this pandemic, people are losing jobs, placements are affected. So, sir, do you believe will this lead to the spurt in startups?
So it's not. So for the reasons that we just discussed now, I don't think it's the right time for people to make that jump. It is actually the wrong time. I would say that if people did this last year, it was the best time, or even before that. The last 3-4 years have been great for startups. After this COVID challenge goes away, the next 10, 15, 20 years, actually perpetual, is going to be great for startups in India. But now is not the good time to, just because you're out of a job or you don't have, you feel you can do something else other than employment. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that in order to start something on your own, there is a lot of mental, I would say, strength that you need to have. Even in the normal course, a person who's employed, right, he would be thinking 100 times before he says, let me leave that very safe job and then, start something risky, right? So it's probably a riskier time to do that. But at the same time, people are out of jobs, so they can definitely do other things. My suggestion would be, rather than say I want to do something, for myself, I think they should offer themselves to startups. They should offer themselves to, as freelance consultants, as part-time employees. People are nowadays absolutely open to, hiring out talent. So people are not so worried about having people as employees. So rather than, try to be on my own full time and then struggle to get some money via my business, which is not going to be easy, I might as well work half time, get half the pay, but at least make myself useful. And maybe I have 2 such opportunities and it kind of is more or less okay. I may still not get 100% of my salary. The other alternative is to use this 1 year time as a break. Obviously 6 months have already passed almost, right? And I'm guessing it is a year, it could be longer too. One other thing is to use this time to totally reinvent yourself. So rather than try and do stuff which gives you some sort of financial comfort, take up all the e-learning courses that you can, make this opportunity to switch your choice of understanding career domain to an area that could be better for you in the future in line with your ambition and strengths. Usually these 1 year breaks that people take, right, during by taking a break from work, consider this as that 1 year break that's available. You don't obviously have to go out and join a course. So you can join a good, Coursera based, edX based, anywhere, a good university's course, and learn something or a bunch of things which are extremely new that will help you probably be a better domain guy, a better business guy, better artist, whatever it is that you chase, right? And make that switch. That's probably going to be better for you. And yes, in addition to that, if there's a way to do stuff, you can do it. But I don't think that people should use this opportunity to get into a startup space. That's very risky. It's very, very risky.
All right, sir. Again, it was really a wonderful advice from your side. Sir, my next question to you, sir, as we have covered all the aspects related to COVID-19, sir, one aspect which is still left, sir, the question is how COVID-19 can be a big opportunity for the entrepreneurs.
So basically, even as we speak, things are happening with startups, right? So every startup is having its own challenge. The first is getting business. The second is making sure that the fixed costs, of your business is being managed somehow. Funding is available in some form, right? So these are very important requirements. And again, I'm only talking about the startups that are early, right? So the largely settled startups would have some reserves, would have some funding coming and stuff like that, right? So I think 2-3 things. One is you're pushed to a corner, so you have to innovate. I think it's important to find out new ways to manage your business model. And when I say new ways, I mean to say that you either collaborate with other startups. You may be having ABC capabilities. There's a Y startup who has DEF capabilities. It's quite possible that someone approached them or approached you saying, I want ABCDEF, but both of you don't have it. So both of you collectively try to bid for that project, take it and execute it, and then get your shares, right? So try to find out ways in which you can collaborate that way. Plus the right customer group now for startups are going to be startups, which means that instead of bothering about working for large companies and getting large companies, businesses who are obviously tightening their purses, they're not going to be spending now. Work with startups who got funding and who need to take their product to say the next stage. So it could be POC becoming MVP, it could be MVP scaling up, it could be scaling up, adding more products, whatever it is, right? So make those startups your customers, and obviously work on thinner margins. You don't have to work the same margin that you work with a large company. So that's one way to kind of manage your cash flows. Collaborate and start changing your customer segment to startups who have, because their objective is to use this quiet time to build the product, right, or to build whatever offering. So they definitely will spend. Right? The other thing is whatever assets you have, rather than creating more assets, monetize whatever you do, right? So if you have something that you can offer to customer A, try to see if there is a new segment of customers. It could be a geography, it could be a totally different class of segment. And I'm talking about, say, an example, a software or a consulting service or something like that. Definitely, there would be new segments that would come out because you're pushed to a corner, you'll be able to. And if you have the ability to modify that product slightly and offer it to a totally different customer class, do that. Don't take up anything new. Try to work with what you have and maximize and monetize what you have. alternatively, just try to make some very minor tweaks and repurpose it for a different revenue stream or a different customer stream. These are the only two ways that you can probably manage. There's no other way, in my opinion.
Again, sir, it was really a great advice. So, sir, I don't want to waste you much time. So, moving to my last question of this session is, which is, sir, what advice will be from your side and message will be from your side to all those startups and entrepreneurs in this tough time?
So I think that broadly, the idea would be to wait it out, find ways to make sure that you reduce your fixed costs, don't have any additional fixed costs, that all avoidable costs please avoid, all discretionary expenses please postpone. Each company has kind of reacted or responded to this challenge in different ways. So if you have loyal employees who have been adequately paid, request them to take a pay cut, say that whatever they get in 3 months, you probably give them in 4 or 5 months. But make sure that as soon as the firm is seeing visibility of funding or has got some revenues, the employees come first. Find ways to get some amount of cash in whatever way it is for at least the next 6 months. I would want to believe that you should have a 6-month buffer. And then obviously the other two portions which I talked about, monetizing your existing assets and trying to collaborate with some of your other peer groups and startups to make sure that you have a more complete offering. I think these are ways in which you should be. So it's on the business side as well as on the cost side that you need to manage. We should go with the idea that there is nobody else who's going to be out there to help you. Your own customers have their own problems, so you can't expect them to be kind to you. Each day, customers are saying, we're going to cut down this cost. Existing costs are going to be cut down. So if you thought 6 months of wait is enough, it's probably not going to be. And the same rule applies to your customers also. They also must have thought 6 months is enough. So now they're also going to realize it's probably going to be 12 months. So please be prepared for that. I think it's very important to keep your calmness and patience around, and always find ways to innovate, right? And see either on the cost side or on the business side, is there anything that you can do with what you have, right? And you have a fantastic set of team members who are with you, so you should there's nothing wrong in even asking ideas from them, right? So that's something that you can always do.
Again, sir, it was really a great message, and also you made many important points. I think those who are watching this session, it will add much value to their life. So, sir, it was really a great, fascinating session with you. Thank you so much, sir, for joining and giving your important time. It was really a great session with you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Harsh. Thanks, and thanks for having me here. Good luck to Honest Talks. Please
Thank you.
Please keep all the best.
Thank you.